my precious Varka. They tried slandering you. They called you pretty boy, and they were right. They said your kit was ass. I played your trial, and I don't know. I don't really know what you do. You know, I don't really know what anyone's kit does anymore. I don't know what Lauma's does. The only difference to me between Kokomi and Columbina is Kokomi heals. So I don't know, maybe they're right. But during your story quest, you gave a grown man the greatest thing one person can gift another. And that's hope for a better future. A future that has all the people I love and care about in it. What am I talking about? Folks, Varka's story quest has just set a precedent that's twofold. The first, souls can be split, and the second, people can return from the ley lines. Why does this matter to us? Because it just so happens there's two notable individuals in Teyvat who've merged with one another, one of which is in the ley lines. The first being the captain who's merged with the Lord of the Night Yehudevich, and the second being Rhinedottire, who's merged with the Shade of Life Naberius. Folks, there is now a path to victory. Let's delve into the specifics, and then later we'll discuss, if a separation of these entities is warranted, because it saddens me to say, but for one of these pairs, it might not be. But first, what's the processes behind all this? In Varka's story quest, the god of the North Wind, Andrias, split himself into two beings. One was in Mondstadt, and the other was in Nod-krai. The one in Mondstadt went on to do great things, lead a great life, whilst the one in Nod-krai was just sort of sleeping until recent events caused the Abyss to corrupt and seize his spirits. The Abyss did this by taking the form of Roland the Bloodstained Knight, who surrendered himself to the Abyss 500 years ago.
More precisely, it's the external will that has seized control of Andrias' spirit, namely Roland, the Bloodstained Knight.
Once he had learned of Conria's fate, he saw the god's judgment as the greatest injustice. So he surrendered himself to the Abyss, giving them his knowledge, his power, his everything. That's why the Abyss can replicate him.
While collecting bits of Andrias' spirit, we find them contaminated with Abyssal Roland, so Varka asks if the Traveler can separate the Roland part from the Andrias part, keep them both intact, but just separate them, and to do this, we need to tether the Roland part into reality by using an anchor that's personal to Roland. This came in the form of a letter Rostam wrote to Roland 500 years ago, and it's then we were able to successfully separate the two entities.
Whoa, it actually worked?
You really are making this up as you go along!
So the assimilation of souls really can be reversed, just like he said.
This demonstrates to us the Traveler has some sort of an ability to purify souls of other contaminants, but the tricky part is, we don't know if the Roland part was simply an abyssal contaminant, given it had Roland's memories inside of it, or if it was actually Roland's soul. The Abyss replicated Roland, yes, but did they replicate his soul? Are having the memories of the original indicative that his soul too has been replicated? Are memories housed in the soul? In any case, we later get two real souls separating when in Andrias' heart, Varka revealed he housed the wolf's spirit in his heart, much like the captain housed the fallen soldiers of Conria in his own modified heart, but housing the spirit of a god is much more dangerous.
If a mortal heart is to bear the soul of a god, this is a path that cannot be retraced.
But human hearts and flesh cannot bear the soul of a wolf directly. It would be akin to forcefully merging a human and a wolf into one being. They would descend into chaos.
As a result, Varka's soul was collapsing, and what's more, he was being sent into the ley lines because that's where Andrias' spirit was going. So like earlier, we tethered Varka's soul into reality in the form of letters, as before this journey, Varka wrote letters to everyone in Mondstadt and asked them all to write back. Their response letters are what tethered Varka's soul to reality, allowed him to split from Andrias, and return from the ley lines back into the real world. Now, do we know someone whose soul is currently merged with that of a god and is currently in the ley lines? Folks, that's the captain.
The ley lines will not accept them. But by merging my existence with the Lord of the Night, I can become master of the ley lines and change the rules entirely.
In the end, he used that immortality to his advantage. and granted the Lord of the Night eternal life by fusing his existence with hers.
Capitano merged himself with the Lord of the Night, and then, all at once, both he and the souls he was carrying were granted entry into the Night's Kingdom, which are the ley lines of Notlan. It's nearly a perfect match for Varka's story. So in theory, it sounds like, returning Capitano, saving him, would be as simple as anchoring his soul into reality with a bait. What could that bait be? It'd have to be something personal to the captain. What if it's Thrain's weapon, Milstatine?
Now that I think about it, the term Mistelton often seemed to come up in connection with Project Stuja.
Or maybe it's his actual weapon left in the real world. Either way, we aren't short of baits to reel him back from the Knight's Kingdom. What we're short of are reasons. Aside from, Capitano's cool, woo, let's go. There's no, in-game reason, lore reason to bring the captain back. In fact, bringing him back currently seems like it'd do more harm than good. The captain doesn't need rescuing because the captain merged himself willingly with the Lord of the Night for two reasons. The first, to release the souls he carried with him into the ley lines, and the second, give the Lord of the Night's immortality as she was dying, and given she sustains the Knight's Kingdom, without her, the rules would be chaos, and that's the biggest problem. Without the Captain's Curse of Immortality, the clock would begin ticking on the Lord of the Knights, and thus the Knight's Kingdom. Until this issue can be resolved, I'm not sure how likely it'd be for the Captain to return, as his sacrifice served a multifaceted purpose. Now with Rhinedottire and Naberius, this bitch Rhinedottire, well, Rhinedottire sort of just ate Naberius.
Now there's an interesting idea. Better than being devoured.
And as a result, Naberius is now just a voice in a head.
Although merging with you has stripped me of agency, I shall still continue to voice my disapproval.
We still have absolutely no idea about the mechanisms at work here, nor the reason Rhinedottire became a cannibal, but given Rhinedottire should be a lot of abyssal entity, much like Rerir was, the Traveler being able to purify Naberius' soul as a result sounds, hell, I'd argue more plausible than, the Capitano Lord of the Night situation, because here we have a pure soul, a pure white soul in Naberius, and then dark black evil in Rhinedottire. The problem, however, I find, is it's highly unlikely Rhinedottire ate Naberius without Naberius' consent, because the audacity to do that, and then show up to the Shades meetings, just seems absurd. Given Naberius' heart was chilling somewhere for Rhinedottire to find, it seems like Rhinedottire swallowing Naberius is an arrangement that benefited both, somehow, but Naberius obviously got the short end of the fucking stick, so what the ramifications for saving Naberius would be are unknown. On Rhinedottire's end, apparently merging with Naberius helped Rhinedottire stop becoming batshit. Given we know prior to this she was losing her mind, seems like if we separate the two, Rhinedottire would just sort of, tee the fuck up for part 2 of the Cataclysm. And anyway, as much as it pains me to say this, Rhinedottire is so damn fine. Goodbye.